Here we are. Good evening. Welcome to the Human Rights Commission meeting on January 23rd. Chuck, Commissioner, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Yes. May we stand, please? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America
and to
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Commissioner Zelness, will you please read the mission statement?
The mission of the Human Rights Commission of Palm Springs is to promote improved human relations, civic peace, intergroup understanding, and the full acceptance, respect, and participation of all persons in all aspects of community life so that we will be equal in the eyes of each other.
Thank you. Lee, can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Commissioner Janis, absent. Commissioner Boyd,
Present?
Commissioner Yo, absent. Commissioner Bowens, Commissioner Feingold,
Here.
Commissioner Zelness,
Here.
Commissioner Aguano,
Present.
Commissioner McCullough.
Present.
Lee, do you want to tell us something about the posting of the agenda?
The agenda was posted in accordance with the Brown Act.
Okay. As I see, we don't have any public with us. I don't expect any public comments, so we'll move on. Because of the Martin Luther King holiday, most of us didn't get in the mail our minutes or the agenda, so I'm going to propose that we put off till the next meeting approving the minutes of December the 12th. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, voice vote, aye?
Aye.
Okay. Reports, we're going to go a little bit out of order. Usually I do the first report, but Commissioner Bowens, you have a previous engagement, so tell us what you want to tell us.
Thank you very much. I would like to invite each and every one to the Palm Springs for the Black History Month Parade that will be held on Saturday, September 22nd at 10 o'clock downtown Palm Springs. And I think the Human Rights Commission is going to participate in that as well. So I would like for everyone to please come out for this great event, which is the celebration of African American Month. And one of the last things we do is the Black History Month Parade. There will be a booth and food and everything at Ruth Hardy's Park on that same Saturday right after the parade. So if everyone could please come out and support us on that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowens, and we are going to be at the parade. We will take part in the parade. Okay, Chairman's report. I have a few things to comment on. First, I'm sorry Commissioner Janis is not here, but I wanted to commend him. I don't know if many of you know Commissioner Janis went to Sacramento, and I believe he wrote the law for elder abuse. And next time he's at a meeting, I want him to tell us about it, because I think he should be commended. I also want to point out in today's Desert Post Weekly, Steve Brown, the editor, he has a column called Strokes and Chokes. He gave us a stroke. A stroke is a good thing in his column. And the Human Rights Commission, and much of the thanks goes to Commissioner Aguano, he thought that the Human Rights Commission forum on civil asset forfeiture was excellent. And I've heard nothing but excellent things all over town about it, so thank you. I want to say that I was sorry to read on Sunday that Morris Kite passed away at the age of 83. Morris Kite was a civil rights leader for gays and lesbians. I was fortunate to meet him several months ago when I read at his dedication, he dedicated a tree and a plaque for Morris Kite, so his passing was a very sad thing. One more story. It started out as a personal thing. About 2 weeks ago in the Desert Sun, I always read the letters first thing in the morning. So at 5 in the morning, I read a really anti-Semitic letter. And I was halfway through the letter. I knew who wrote it. I didn't have to even look at the signature. And I was right. So I decided, when I calmed down at 6 o'clock in the morning, I called Cindy Yukin at the Desert Sun. And I thought I'd get her machine, but instead, I got her at like 6:05. And we sort of yelled back and forth for a few minutes. Then we both calmed down, and when I got off the phone, I decided I'm not going to do anything about it. I don't want to give this man who writes these letters any more, advertising. However, a few days later, I went to a Stonewall Democratic Club meeting for the first time. Someone else mentioned the letter, and that group decided they were going to march on the paper. On Martin Luther King's birthday, they were going to have a candlelight vigil, and people were really upset. When I got home that day, I had 72 emails from people upset about that letter. And I talked to every one of them. I mean, one email would go to 10 people, but I got their response. I called Cindy Yukin back at the paper, and she said, I think I made a mistake. Why don't you come in with a committee of people that are involved, and let's talk about this. So I brought with me more people than she wanted, I want you to know. I brought Thomas Van Etten from the Bottom Line, George Zanza, who's the new president of Stonewall Democrats, David Phelps, who's a political activist here in Palm Springs, Melinda Tremaglio, who's the president of our local chapter of NOW. I asked Commissioner Zelnis, and she joined us, and Marcia Stein, who's in the Anti-Defamation League in Palm Desert. And I'm going to turn the story over. Sly, you want to tell what happened at the meeting?
Sure. Probably the biggest, I don't know if it's advantage of the meeting, but the most positive aspect of the meeting, I think, was the spirit in which everyone approached the meeting. It wasn't an at your throat, point the finger, blame, all of those kinds of things, but really an effort by everybody there to talk about their particular response to that letter to the editor, as well as excuse me, the collective responses of some of the groups that people there were representing. And I think that the underlying spirit was what obviously helped the communication there in the group, with most of the people feeling that there was some conflict there, understanding the First Amendment rights of the paper. One person indicated that maybe it is the paper's obligation to remind all of us in the community that there are opinions like this, that there are bigots in our community, lest we forget that they're still out there, versus, as Bill mentioned, sort of giving someone airtime that is espousing a view that is unfair, inappropriate, et cetera, on down the line. And that it really is a very delicate balance that an organization like the newspaper or any media hold, and their obligations to be fair and informative to the publics they serve. Ultimately, Cindy Eucken took essentially personal responsibility for that letter, in that it was a busy time over the holidays. They were short-staffed. She was ill, in and out of work. All excuses aside, she said that if things had been more normal, if you will, that she may not have printed that letter, or she may have done a bit further editing that would have really changed the tone, the tenor of the letter altogether, and made it less offensive. Her interest was not, and she never intended to have the hurtful effect on so many people that obviously this publishing this letter had, because she heard, if Bill had 72 emails, you can only imagine how many emails and phone calls and other communiques that Cindy had. And she was very apologetic for the unintended effect that letter had on various aspects of the community. Promised, between she and Steve Silberman, the editor of the paper, talked about planning an editorial, which in fact was in Sunday's paper, Cindy's editorial, about her apology essentially to the community for publishing that letter. And also they had indicated at that meeting that they had just finished doing the verifications on the letters that had come in essentially in response to that one letter. So they weren't holding those other side opinions intentionally, but had just, as I say, completed calling people to make sure that they were in fact the writers. And many of those letters appeared in the same page as Cindy's editorial about that her apology for that letter. I think ultimately the group was satisfied, believed the sincerity of Cindy's apology and that of the paper overall. The Stonewall Democrats had initiated a demonstration, if you will, a vigil as they were calling it, for Martin Luther King Day in order to protest that letter that the Desert Sun had printed. Actually, I was out of town on Monday, and I don't know if that
They canceled it.
they did cancel it, but there was every indication that the two leaders at that meeting, while they couldn't make the decision as to whether or not to cancel that proposed vigil, that they were supportive of canceling it because of the approach that the Desert Sun was taking in response to the community response to that particular letter. So it was one more opportunity for a group of people to get together who had perhaps different viewpoints. Certainly, we're not always in agreement with some of the editorials that come out of the Desert Sun. But it was very much of a cooperative, collaborative effort, people sitting down at the table to talk about some mutual concerns with really a very positive outcome to that meeting overall. So it was a very worthwhile effort, and I think Bill needs to be commended for sort of being the spearhead to get that going, to get this meeting to take place, and an opportunity for people to talk across the table as opposed to responding in a more emotional way, jumping into a vigil or a demonstration without having that opportunity for dialogue. So it was a very positive experience and a positive outcome, I think.
Thank you, Commissioner Zales. I also want to add, the letter was anti-Semitic, but our conversation, I would have been there if it was anti-Catholic, anti-Black, anti-gay. We discussed every group, and that we don't want to censor letters, but we just want them to be more sensitive to what they print sometimes. And I came away from it feeling great because I finally have an answer to some people that say, what does the Human Rights Commission do? And since I wear that hat, that was the Human Rights Commission got that achieved. And I hear the paper has almost never apologized for anything. So that's people watching, that's what the Human Rights Commission can get done. Now we need that's my report, that's the chairman's report. So we'll have the vice chair report.
That's sort of the vice chair's report as well. I don't have anything further to add at this point.
Okay, Commissioner Janis is not here for mediation. Community relations.
Community relations. The only thing to mention in terms of community relations is, as a result of our last re-election, I guess, we need to identify a new community relations chair. So I don't know if it's not something that's is it on the agenda for today, actually? Great. So we will talk about that when we get to that part of the agenda.
Okay. Seems like we're going back and forth. Now it's hate crimes. I'm chairman of the hate crimes. The most important thing is we have a meeting next Tuesday, the 28th at 6 o'clock at the Police Training Center, room 101C. There was an article in the paper today. There was one hate crime over the weekend where a gentleman was beat up off of Arenas, and I've spoken with him. I spoke to him yesterday, and he's going to come to the meeting and tell us what happened. There are also a couple of other stories floating around Palm Springs, and I'm going to talk to the chief of police either tomorrow or Monday before we make any accusations, and just want to keep a lid on everything. But everyone's invited, and pizza will be served, so I'm sure people will show up. So that's Tuesday the 28th is the hate crimes meeting. And that's my report. Next is Commissioner Aguano, Education and Forum.
Okay, thank you. Well, we had the forum. Everybody was here, most of us were here, and it was on asset seizure, asset forfeiture. I thought it was very successful. I was impressed with the caliber of people that showed up. I was not responsible for getting all of them. I just made some phone calls. I had some good references and good leads. And what was interesting about that, we for those of you who didn't see it, we took two approaches. We talked about the Bill of Rights and the ability of the state to seize people's assets on a philosophical level, and then we also talked about it on a local level because it was pertinent to a city council upcoming vote on whether we should join a group, INCA task force, a law enforcement task force, that actually actively engages in asset seizure and forfeiture. For those of you, again, who didn't see it, the crust of the meeting turned out that, yes, there are abuses of civil rights, but not in Palm Springs, and that our police department is monitored quite well and abides by the book and does not engage in any abuse. And then when it was brought to the city council, it passed by 4-1 margin. So the city council endorsed the city's participation in INCA. And so that was the last one. Now, the next one we're looking forward to is the forum in February on Homeland Security. I would at this time like to open up a discussion on this. I would like to see where the council would like to go with this. we're all in favor of protecting civil rights. And I don't know exactly where the commission would like to take this, and I need some guidance so I can direct my questions, comments, my research, and who I am going to invite to participate in this. I see we have a document in front of us, a guide to the provisions of the USA Patriot Act and federal executive orders that threaten civil liberties, and I suppose that will be a jumping off point. And I suppose also that the forum will discuss the limits or the extent or where we draw the line in giving up civil liberties for homeland security. That's as far as I've got in thinking about this. And of course, I will pursue it further, but is there anybody who has any particular bent they would like to see that this forum take?
Can I say something? I just want to explain. I bought these pamphlets. On the internet, there's a group nationwide that is, it's called Bill of Rights Defense Committee. And so it's a fairly liberal group, but when you read this, it fairly well documents what we should be scared of. I think I'd like to see the forum. The people I talk to around town are very nervous. I mean, yes, we want security for the country, but I don't want to be secure and lose my freedoms. And that's the feeling everybody's getting. And I think you see that on the news every day. People are getting very uneasy. And we might also ask, are we really any safer than we were last September 11th? Because I know I'd give you a big fat no as an answer. But maybe I'm not allowed to answer that yet. But yeah, any other, how should Joe do this forum? And your other forum was great, so we expect the bar has been raised.
A topper, yeah. When we did the May 6th community dialogue meetings last May, I was talking with George Fransden, one of the panelists last week, or last meeting, about the ACLU approach, participation, et cetera. And George had mentioned that they had, I want to say he was a recently retired ACLU officer, and I don't know if he was really local, as in the Coachella Valley or Inland Empire, but in the area anyway, who was somewhat of a specialist on these kinds of things, and from a historical standpoint, was very knowledgeable about some of the issues in World War II and the Japanese internment, and had lots of not just opinions, but some real historical background on times in history where civil liberties were at issue and potentially being given up, sometimes unbeknownst to Americans, in the interest of one initiative or another, and of course now being terrorism. And I can give George a call, or if you'd want to give him a call to find out further what, if this individual is still available, and might be able to have a good, interesting perspective.
Sure.
Does anyone have any idea whether someone who would speak in favor of the act and the loss of liberties? Because it seems like it's going to be pretty easy to get a bunch of people who are going to speak against it. But I'm at a loss to think of anyone he could call on to speak for it.
You think we can get John Ashcroft to come to Palm Springs?
I don't think so. That to me seems to be the challenge. I think you get the ACLU, you get all kinds of these Bill of Rights defense groups and things. But I'm challenged to think of someone who may be in favor of that, and maybe Chief Gendron might be free that night.
Mary Bono.
That was a joke.
I know. Mary Bono. I'm sure she's in favor of it.
We could find out maybe who voted for it, and then see if we can call their offices, possibly of local, and maybe they can get a representative to come.
Sure.
It's a good thought.
Okay, well, I'll pursue it. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Aguano. Next is Commissioner comments. Does anybody have a comment this evening?
Yeah, I have some comments. First of all, I think all of us will agree that we had some very bad news this week, that Councilwoman Hodges is facing lung cancer treatment, probably undergoing it this week. And I think I can speak for the rest of the commissioners that we wish her the best for a speedy and full recovery. And I hope that, reading the editorial in the paper, I hope that people will be patient with her recovery and when it comes to attending meetings and things, and perhaps the city can find someone maybe to cover some of those meetings for her with CVAG and things so that she can put her treatment and recovery first and not be worried about some meeting in Coachella or something on 3 o'clock during the weekday. So I just wanted to say that. And secondly, I saw David Reddy, our city manager, speak the other morning about sort of the state of the city, and he made some comments I think would be of interest, and I haven't heard them before, is that the city may be facing possibly a $3 million budget deficit next year between the loss of the Marquee, which is maybe $500,000 in TOT tax. They haven't renegotiated the compact with the Agua Calientes on, they voluntarily pay TOT tax, and there's like an agreement on that, and they haven't renegotiated that yet. Possibility if the Marquee is sold to the tribe, then the TOT may drop. Also, the public employees retirement system is apparently a defined benefit plan, and anybody who knows anything about defined benefit plans, when the stock market goes down, your contribution increases, and he indicated that that may be, instead of like a $1.2 million contribution, it could be 2 something. And so that's you start adding all these little things up, $1 million here, $1 million there, it comes pretty quickly. So we're looking at a potential $3 million deficit next year, which could be devastating to a lot of things like our committee. And I think it's a big challenge for our city and our city council to address those issues. And I just wanted to pass that along because that could impact a lot of things that we're planning on doing. Would be this upcoming. Because if you look at what happened in Cathedral City, just Tuesday night or last night, they had about the same amount of money they had to cut out of their budget, and that's, I think, going to be devastating to their level of services in the city. Thanks.
Anybody else have any comments?
I have a quick comment, my usual reminder about PFLAG. Meetings are the 3rd Sunday of the month at the Cathedral City Public Library in their community room from 2:30 to 4:30 in the afternoon.
Thank you. Commissioner Bowens?
I would just like to say, Commissioner, thank you so very much for participating in the Black History Parade this year. And if I could please be excused, because at this
Yes.
time they
Go
are
enjoy.
holding their beauty pageant at the pavilion, and I'm sponsoring some girls, and I need to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thought you were in it, Commissioner Bowens. Go enjoy it. Okay, I just want to comment on what you said, Mike. The mayor, on February 13th, that is when the mayor makes his State of the City address. So I think that's something we should all go to. Well, people that are interested, I'm going. And that's at 11:30 at the Convention Center. That's $35 a ticket, and you get lunch. And also,
What is the date on that again?
February the 13th, and you have to get in touch with our Chamber of Commerce to get a ticket. But the mayor makes a great presentation. He'll tell you everything that's going on with the budget. And with Dana Hodges, we all do wish her a speedy recovery. We all do love Dana. And I just hope people will allow her some privacy, not ask questions that I think are inappropriate. I mean, she was very brave. She did her thing, told us what's wrong now. I think she should have her privacy and just get better. And that's the end of commissioner comments. Unless anybody else have something? Staff reports?
Chairman Feingold, I believe the State of the City address is going to be on Wednesday, February 12th.
Well, thank you. I got it wrong off the computer today. So I am going Wednesday the 12th. You're absolutely correct. Because you're right, because I remember saying to myself, I have to go to a city council meeting that night. So it's State of the City, and Palm Springs Chamber members, it's $35. Potential members, it's $40. And it's at the Convention Center on Wednesday, February 12th. And let's see, any other staff reports?
No.
Anything else you want to correct?
Well, that is a city holiday on the 12th, so normally there would be the council study session. They are going to move their meeting to the 13th, which is our regular meeting.
Right.
So we will just meet in here instead of in the large conference room. The council will meet in the large conference room, and we'll need to provide some secretarial help for you that night.
Okay.
And I'll find someone, so we may have an expense there to find someone to take the minutes for you that night.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Now I have it. Wednesday is the mayor, Thursday is their study session, Thursday is our regular meeting. Okay, fine. Now, we could look for items in discussion for vote. The first one is possible resolution in support of the Bill of Rights. And to be honest, I gave this pamphlet to everybody tonight because I don't want to discuss it tonight, but what's going on is many cities around the country are passing a resolution saying we support the Bill of Rights. And it's just the city's way and the city's population way of saying, okay, we want to be safe, but, and I thought we might discuss that at our next regular meeting, if somebody would be, if we're interested in that, and maybe bring that up to the city council, if they would want to take part in that, or if we want to take part in that. So that's going to be,
Is this in conjunction with the Homeland Security Act?
yes.
Do you want to wait until after the forum? Is there a
Good
pre-
idea. No, that's a good idea. Why not move it so we have more facts at hand? So, yeah, so Lee, we could put that on the agenda after the forum to discuss. And,
Although I doubt if anybody would be against the Bill of Rights.
well, that's the thing, but it's hard, that's what I think too. Who's going to be against the Bill of Rights? But you'll be surprised.
Well, I guess it depends on how we word it.
Yeah.
So, okay.
But I just thought it might be something interesting for us to talk after the forum. That'd be perfect. Good idea, Joe. Next up is no war resolution.
That was my contribution, one of my contributions to the agenda tonight. As many of you probably know, across the country in the course of this past weekend and first part of the week, there were community gatherings, demonstrations, vigils, again, those words pop up, in support of no war, in support of not going to war with Iraq, and looking at some of the imminent steps moving us in that direction. From what I understand, and I don't have any actual copies, but other cities in America are also doing hate-free, war zone-free, peace zones, essentially, and establishing their area as a no war zone. And similar to Bill's comments about the Bill of Rights, I wanted to float that boat to the commission tonight to see if there is any interest in promoting and drafting something like a resolution for the city of Palm Springs to officially declare ourselves, identify ourselves as a no war zone, if you will, or in support of peace as opposed to a war effort. Any discussion on that tonight?
Commissioner Zelnis, is it possible at this point if that could be discussed among us to get personal viewpoints and ideas rather than to bring that up for an overall response at this time?
My first hit on that is one of the public meeting issues, and that we really can't have individual discussions outside of a public forum.
Do you mean discuss it now, personally?
I think it needs further discussion, yes.
Well, that's why Commissioner Zelnis brought it up.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
That's the boat that's being floated
Okay.
right now.
Yeah, I want to commend the executive committee. I think it's good that we bring things up as a possible thing so we don't get something like this controversial dumped on us and we have to read 6 pages and then make a decision, because that's happened to us before in the past where we didn't get the things in the mail or whatever. This no war resolution, I've always been kind of tickled by when a city council sort of does something like this that's really a national thing, and I'm not sure we can speak, or the city council could speak on behalf of the entire city, because there's probably 50% of the people who are, or gung-ho for Iraq and 50% are not. So I don't know how you could even say that Palm Springs is against the war, because they could say the city council is against the war, or we could say that the Human Rights Commission is against the war, but I don't know if we can say the city is, because I don't think we can speak on behalf of the city. So I've always been troubled by these kinds of sort of feel-good resolutions. I know the intent is very good. I don't think there's anyone who prefers war over peace, but I'm not really sure if that's the right spot for city government to be making those kinds of declarations on behalf of the citizens or not. I think it have to be very carefully drafted to make sure it's clear as to who's speaking.
Anybody else? Comments?
I have seen the report about the demonstration about no war and things like that. I think it's, people forget about 2 years ago we were attacked. The Twin Tower fell down, and it was I went to New York City before the event happened and after and several times, and I've seen the devastation of what people with certain hatred can do. And so, President Bush declared a war against terrorism, so that's what he was intending to do. So when people say that no more war, we are at war, and it's kind of naive to think we could just stop war and just have peace. But then there are people that really hate us. They're preparing. They are putting together poison. They're putting together dirty bombs, and they're planning to destroy the state of Israel, the Jewish nation. They have openly vowed that they will destroy Israel, and the United States is the only country in the world that's supporting Israel openly. And so I think it's a very naive step. It's not. It's a very complex situation. I don't want war. It's really horrible. I don't like war. But Saddam Hussein, for 20 years, he has ignored the United Nations directive, and he finally opened up when he saw that somebody serious. They're going to do something if he doesn't do it. He finally opened up his country for United Nations inspectors. So I don't know what is going on behind the scenes, but that's my position, personal position.
Thank you, Commissioner Yo. Anybody else have comments?
Yes, I'm definitely in accordance with Commissioner McCulloch and his statement that you just made, and I understand also where Commissioner Yo is directing his thoughts at this time. I really feel that this is a very, very complex issue to be taken in the context that it can be decided for the city of Palm Springs as to each one's personal viewpoint. I sort of shy away from this and the way that it is being presented to us, Commissioner Zellnis. All due respect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Commissioner Board. Any other comments? Well, I'm going to just make one comment. This morning on the news, because some French official said that any time a nation goes to war, that's a defeat. That means something's been defeated. But this gentleman was speaking in French, not German. So I thought, what about World War II? So no war. I mean, sometimes, in my mind, you have to go to war. So I even think it's too soon in my mind, because I'd hate to see a no-war resolution and then tomorrow suddenly we find horrible weapons of mass destruction somewhere and you have to go to war. In my mind, you have to get rid of them. I think it's too soon. I mean, I know I marched against the Vietnam War, but we were well into it, and you could see it was wrong. But this I don't know yet. But it's a good boat to float. I'm glad that we're talking about it.
Well, it's sort of the objective of doing this type of a resolution before war breaks out is to put more energy, collective energy, so that doesn't happen. And waiting to do a no-war resolution to see whether or not there's going to be war is sort of contraindicated. I think also the city council does resolutions on behalf of the city all the time. We have heard earlier on this year about lack of overall support, if you will, that this mayor and council are tending to give to resolutions generally, sort of, as you mentioned, Mike, the feel-good kind of thing that, what does it mean? Well, I look at a possible resolution in support of the Bill of Rights. Well, we probably have some people out there who feel differently about the Bill of Rights as well. And if we sit here and say, well, nobody wants war, then it's the same kind of context as saying, well, everybody is in support of the Bill of Rights. It's the position that an organization like the Human Rights Commission or a geographical area like the city of Palm Springs makes a statement as to what our collective energy is, if you will, of where we are in terms of advocating alternatives, advocating the right thing, advocating a peaceful way, and not waiting till a war breaks out and then deciding whether or not we're in favor of it, but the concept of war itself. And since we are so imminent, and I certainly don't want to get into a political discussion about why are we dealing with Iraq the way we are and not dealing with North Korea the way we aren't. But the specific players are not the issue here. It's the bigger concept of peace or war, and where do we stand? And for exactly the same reason why we're all for the Bill of Rights, let's look at the possibility of doing a resolution in support of the Bill of Rights. If we're all for peace, then we could also look at the possibility of a resolution indicating that spirit, that energy.
Commissioner Zellness, as you were speaking there, it just dawned on me, we are always searching for excellent forum topics and different discussions. Might this be a good area to go in terms of an open forum, get the pros and cons and feelings, and with, of course, inviting the public and a panelist of maybe people that have some areas of expertise, knowledge, and what have you?
Sure, I like the idea, and I am certainly open to, as I suspect our education chair as well, of suggestions of who might participate in that. I mean, there obviously names come to mind: George W. Bush, Donald Rumsfeld. Not people who were likely to get to Palm Springs, although they would be the experts to speak most knowledgeably about these topics, but someone closer to home who, again, has credibility, is known, and can speak to some of the issues. I think it's a great idea. Effecting it is going to be a challenge.
Okay, Commissioner Zell, where would you like to go tonight?
Joe, perhaps if from the timeliness standpoint, we could bump that up to our February forum, and perhaps instead, it's going to be political no matter what. North Korea is going to get dragged in. It's okay. We could talk about politics and we can disagree on things. We're a political body. I think that would make an excellent forum, and perhaps it could be looked at from the angle of the debate of the peace versus war, maybe the dynamics of the two arguments about when is war necessary and is peace an overriding concern, and that kind of look at the dynamics of the discussion as opposed to maybe the specifics of because I want to make a comment about, we are the Human Rights Commission, and if you were going to go on like 1 to 10, 10 being the best, rank Saddam Hussein as someone how is his civil rights record? You'd probably give him like a -5 or something. He's gassed his own people. This man is not anyone who a Human Rights Commission could even begin to even support, and the argument for the war is to remove him. In fact, I think it's been the stated position that if he were to leave and take asylum somewhere, then there would be no attempt to remove him. So from the Human Rights Commission, this guy is not a very good character or player. So I think that would make an excellent forum, and I'm sure we could that would probably be easy to get people on both sides to talk about.
Commissioner Aguano, do you want to tackle that for the February forum instead of?
That really relieves your problems with respect to the other forum.
It's so hard to change gears. Is it the pressing? My question is it a pressing issue?
Yeah, I think
Is this the direction that the Human Rights Commission wants to go. Homeland Security is also a pressing issue. It's closer to home. I'll take my directions from the
I think it's
commission.
pressing because the soldiers are on the boats, right, Sly? That's your point, is that it's, I mean, whether or not that is something the Human Rights Commission should be, does it really involve human rights? Is that something that,
I'm thinking it might be too political. It might wind up just too political of a debate. I think we have to phrase it better. I like the idea of going into Homeland Security because that affects everybody.
right, and that's Bill of
And
Rights.
and we know, we have in front of us the Homeland Security Act. We know what's going to happen. What if we plan this forum and that night is when the war starts, or maybe the war is already over? We don't know. So maybe we could put the war one on the background. We might have something to discuss. It might be over. Whatever happens, I mean, hopefully it's going to be over quickly. And like Mike says, I mean, they are over there. They're not there for summer camp. You don't put all those troops there. Something's going to happen. I don't think you have to be, Einstein to figure that out. But I think maybe we have to put some distance between what happens and then have a forum. Comments?
Sure.
Yeah.
My underlying feeling on this is that as an organized official body, that here is an opportunity for us to take a stand, to take a position, and to, we talk about our visibility and, making a difference in the community, and I think this is one more way to do that. In the context of our educational effort, I mean, that certainly is one of our missions, is education. And wherever we can find opportunities to educate the community, preferably in things that are in our purview in terms of human rights. But there isn't, in my mind, there isn't anything more damaging to human rights than war and death and destruction. And the fact that war in today's day and times is not going to be fought in some desert landscape with machine guns and tanks. It's going to be fought in cities and towns, and the civil rights of individual citizens who have absolutely nothing to do with a war effort will end. They will lose their lives, and I think that is very much of a human rights concern. That we, again, have an opportunity to take a position, to take a stand, and be visible in what our position is. And if that, if we could start with an educational piece without having it be so political that, there ends up being, not that anything would come to fisticuffs, but, when political issues get hot, and those on either side are brought into a single forum, it can go well, there can be decorum, or it can go poorly, and people can get carried away with their positions. But it was, as I say, something that I wanted to float to this group to see where we are as a small group, and to pursue something short-term, long-term, what that might be. I'm not really invested in the form, but rather in the substance itself.
Well, I'm going to ask for direction. Where should we take this now? I stole that line from the mayor. He always asks, I'm asking for direction now. Where do we
well,
take
because
this?
we could either someone can make a motion in the affirmative that we look into this, or someone can make a motion in the negative and say we're not interested in this, and then we have a second and discussion and vote, or we could probably table it to a future date, and maybe possibly if Sly would like to maybe get a little more documentation as
Right.
to why this relates to human relations or whatever, but then that postpones it to a later date.
Sly, since this is your boat, where would you like to float it?
I would be happy to bring something more to the commission. I guess just being the initiator of this, that my bent, if you will, would probably be to seeing exactly what other cities have, and bringing to this group some examples or some drafts of something that we could pursue, if that is the direction that this group wants to take. If we as a group prefer to do some kind of a forum effort on this, be it at the February meeting, postponing Homeland Security, or doing it later.
Well, I think that I would hate to see you waste your time on something if the group doesn't agree with that. So I'm willing to say that at this point, I would probably say, no, I don't think that's, the Human Rights Commission should do a no war resolution. But I'd be open to additional information and debate and such. But if you're looking for direction, my instinct right now would be to say no.
My feeling is, if there was a vote tonight, you'd get a no vote. But I would give you, I think that if we make some kind of resolution that let's look into this further so we have a better idea of where you want to go with it, then I think it could be a Human Rights Commission. You know, I think the way, just the way it's worded right now, I think the boat gets shot, you know.
I don't think we would even
the
need a
boat
motion for her to look into it further and bring it
Okay.
back. But I just wanted to give her
Okay,
my
yeah, direction. I mean,
direction.
Yeah.
if Sly, if you can come back with us with, you know, more specifics and how you'd like to, you know, frame it, then I think it could be an excellent idea.
My preference would be to do that, then to go with a no vote tonight, and then not have it come up again. So, you know, I will be very
Okay.
selfish in my motivation.
No, so fine, so we don't have to vote. So the boat is still floating and we just need some more info.
You bet. Got it.
Okay, great. So then let me just ask Commissioner Aguano, so we're still on for the Bill of Rights and Homeland Security for February? Okay. So you don't have to do a whole turnaround and come up with another fabulous forum. Next on the agenda is, the update of the formation of the hate crimes group. Well, our high school students are not here. And of course, I'll ask Mr. Aguano to tell them to show up next time. Or-
It is finals.
okay.
Yesterday, today, and tomorrow, semester finals.
Okay.
That's an excuse.
Well,
then.
that's a good excuse. Yeah, that's a good excuse. And now finally, people who've been watching our meetings, it's Commissioner Boyd's new organization. It's almost an old organization
Yeah.
already, but you're going to tell us about it this evening.
Exactly. Thank you, Commissioner Feingold. As a matter of fact, I probably should begin by refreshing, even for the viewing audience, basically what my whole endeavors are, where the direction is. Basically, when I assumed the role as a commissioner for the Human Rights Commission of Palm Springs, one of my primary areas of concern was basically centered around the underrepresented minorities, not only in the community of Palm Springs, but throughout the entire Coachella Valley. Henceforth, positioning myself with the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission, there were several areas, sort of like, shall we say, areas of impasse. And that primarily is due basically at a no fault, but just let's say with certain structured guidelines and perimeters, and to the extent in which the governing body of the Human Rights Commission of Palm Springs is able to enact. Having noted that and presenting several different proposals and what have you throughout the latter part of 2002, I wanted to still endeavor, no matter what, because it is an area that does need to be addressed. It needs to be followed up. It needs to be delved into. And I speak both as a citizen of Palm Springs as well as a minority. So I took my steps further. I have since organized a nonprofit organization that is known as the Desert Human Rights Association, which is now legally and officially established as of, as a matter of fact, December the 3rd, 2002. Now, in spite of the fact that there's a lot of footwork to do, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and it is still in its infantry. It is still, I should say, basically, I'm at the point of establishing certain things that are required in order for the organization to be recognized as an established and viable nonprofit organization. Basically, and thanks to Commissioner Aguano regarding underrepresented minorities, I wanted to bring to the attention to refresh your memory as well as the viewing audience exactly what constitutes underrepresented minorities. Primarily, according to the Federal Vocational and Technical Education Act of 1998, basically known as the Perkins Act, that primarily focuses on blacks, Latinos, women, white males, and people with physical and or learning disabilities who are not reflected proportionally in a given area of career labor market, regardless of the subgroups, overall demographic representation in the general population. And we all must recognize that there is a uniqueness about the Coachella Valley's makeup, demographically speaking. We all interface and interact with each and every one of the communities, which is another reason why I wanted to have this as an umbrella, stretching or moving from Palm Springs and covering up to Indio. And so that if there are any ongoing human relation problems, any things regarding underrepresented minorities, and not even stopping there. I don't want to put all the emphasis, that's just prioritizing, but also senior citizens, youth groups, as a matter of fact, racial tension and things that are going on with the high schools, not only in Palm Springs, but Cathedral City, Indio, but also things to do with drug abuse and, of course, the hate crime. And so all of these things are encompassed in the Desert Human Rights Association and things that we will look at. Right now, and as I stated to Commissioner Feingold and to all my constituents that make up the Palm Springs Commission, Human Rights Commission, that I will subsequently always keep you apprised and update you on my progress. Again, I'm one of these very conscientious people that believe in crossing T's and dotting I's, so I'm in no great rush, although I feel it is imminent that I reach my destination or my objective. Again, I'm at the formation stage, which involves things from a legal standpoint, such as indemnification. And as a matter of fact, this is very interesting. In my plight for making sure that the association is indemnified, you would be amazed at the various law services I contacted, and they were totally oblivious to that one area under business law to do with indemnifying one's nonprofit organization, or what have you. Amazing, really amazing. However, through my pursuit and endeavors, I did come across a very wonderful law firm located right here in Palm Springs. Had conversation with the attorney that is going to be very instrumental in making sure that my association is indeed indemnified. I'm very, very happy about that. Another thing that it's very interesting. Sometimes along the way, and I'm looking at the year 2002, it seemed like an uphill battle to get this, my sort of dream, shall we say, up off the ground. Went through many impasses. January the 1st, 2003, and from that moment on, things really began to open up. And I'm very happy to report this evening. I believe it's a combination of my endeavors as well as the people that I interface with. I am a self-employed businessman, but the type of professional services I render to the Coachella Valley, they tie in so well with what I'm trying to do on a personal note. Basically, for those that are not familiar with what I do, I contract the orthopedic services of what they call elective surgeries. for patients, both at the Desert Regional Medical Center, Eisenhower Memorial Hospital, and JFK in Indio. And this is great because this gives me firsthand exposure to a lot of the players at all three of these wonderful and quite well-established facilities. Subsequently, by servicing these facilities, I then come into contact with the patients. And in conversations with the patients, I find that a lot of them are business people. They are affiliated with wonderful organizations. And I am speaking in all areas: white community, black community, Hispanics, Jewish, Asian. I've amassed quite a few and wonderful support from all of the above. And as I now begin to move forward, as I now begin to make progress, the support has been tremendous. It really has been tremendous. I'm very, very happy. Once I've gone through the legal aspects and making sure I'm covered there, I will be involved in the month and during the month of February and March for grant writing, federal support, and that will go toward the efforts of workshops. I'm definitely in favor of conducting workshops. I've always been involved in some area of working with various groups and informing them accordingly. And of course, again, the main concept, the objective of the Desert Human Rights Association is to be as an information link and service where needed, and to provide support and assistance to all people within the Coachella Valley. And after maybe further collaboration down the road, I'm even thinking of maybe going as far as even Yucca Valley. I did not give myself any limitation, but I will be focusing in the Coachella Valley for starters. Also, I will be speaking at the, again, let me see, get that here, at the James O. Jesse Desert Highland Unity Center again on February the 11th, and bringing the community up to date. And I look forward to that. And I will also be doing a lot of PR work with the various media. Hopefully that will be in place by March. But as I stated, I will definitely keep you apprised of my endeavors and where everything is heading. I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyd. You're to be congratulated. I hear the excitement in your voice. But one reminder, I spoke yesterday to several newspapers about a certain event I went to. It had nothing to do with me being the chairman of the Human Rights Commission. You have to take that hat off. You have to say right up front, I'm here representing my group. This has nothing to do with the human rights, and then you should be okay. But it's important. Of course, if you forget, you get yourself in trouble.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that, Commissioner Feingold. I appreciate your concern, but rest well on that note. Rest very well. Again, I crossed all T's and dot all I's. And one reason for the areas of legality and having support of this legal law firm here in Palm Springs is to make sure that this stands on its own efforts and is recognized as a separate entity, totally different and separate from the Palm Springs Human Rights Commission. But I thank you for your concern.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners have comments or want to ask Chuck anything?
Do you have a board of directors yet?
That has not been formulated yet. As a matter of fact, I go into a full-fledged conference with the law firm this coming Monday. And a lot of those areas, particulars, will be covered in our meeting scheduled for this Monday.
Who is the group that is sponsoring you?
There is no group sponsoring the Desert Human Rights Association at this time, Commissioner Yo. This is totally on my shoulders, both financially and every other imaginable way to get this up off the ground.
Okay, ready to move on? Thank you, Commissioner Boyd. Next on our list is selection of a chairman for the Community Relations Committee. And I believe that came up because Commissioner Zelnus, you're now vice chair, and somebody else has to be in charge of community relations. Anybody want to grab for it? Actually, I am. You and Dorothy.
And
were-
Dorothy, yeah, there were three of us initially on the committee, and Chuck, before you
Before I
got
started this,
your
exactly.
nonprofit going, wanted
I
to
was
participate.
going to nominate or put into a position for that Commissioner Mike McCulloch.
I'd second that.
Could you remind me of the duties of the Community Relations Committee, and if, what time we have meetings, if there's anything scheduled?
Commissioner Zelnus, you have all that right.
Sure. I don't have in front of me, although I probably have it in my binder here, the capsulized versions, if you will, of the responsibilities of those chair roles. Community relations is not a standing committee, for example, like the executive committee that meets with any regularity on a given schedule, but rather to meet as needs arise and as a committee to look at opportunities for Human Rights Commission to get involved in efforts for visibility. The Black History Month would have been one piece, and Dorothy bringing that forward for our participation in the parade, and the Gay Pride Parade in the fall, and working towards that visibility and being, as we talked about early in this fiscal year, excuse me, that all of us are really members of the Community Relations Committee by virtue of our circle of life, be it school, work, church, neighborhood, whatever it might be, to identify issues that need to be addressed, so that it's not an ongoing, regular meeting schedule with particular efforts underway. At this point, we don't have any particular efforts underway, but it would be incumbent upon that chair to get those things going, essentially. And, for that matter, when we really think about it, we don't have
Well, I was
a
going to
committee
say,
either.
well, to be honest, I was going to say, I don't know why we need that committee right now. I think we have too many committees. And, I've been doing it on my own without us meeting, getting our name out in the press and everything. And I think that's all our jobs, but it seems to me, like Dorothy brought up Black History Month, she didn't really do it as part of that committee. She did it as part of the Human Rights Commission. So, I don't know if we have to say a vote, but to me, it's one committee we don't need. As long as everybody here is very well aware that it's good to get press and it's good to get known, and if you see a need that a certain area of the community needs something from us so that we could help them, so you bring it up at a meeting. I don't know, why we need a committee.
And maybe we don't, and I'm trying to quickly go through what I think is bylaws. I'm never quite sure. Whenever we're searching for things, it's not at our fingertips. And if the Community Relations Committee is an actual bylawed kind of committee, and for us not to have one, we'd have to change the bylaws, and I don't know that we want to go there. But
Maybe we can table this to the next meeting and find out if we can take a vote that if it's not in the bylaws, we don't need the committee. We're just so many people.
We have bylaws. The city actually passed an ordinance for us, and then we have our bylaws, which were written by probably the first commission, and then we have like our rules and guidelines and things, which are less binding than the bylaws. And I think when we had this discussion, most of these committees we didn't have to actually have a committee. But I think that's a good point to maybe bring it to the next meeting so we don't do anything.
Yeah.
May I say something here,
Commissioner Wood.
please?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I want to see this discarded so quickly, Commissioner Feingold. I think from Commissioner Zelnus' past performance, I think there's a place still for it and a need for it. I can't speak for the rest of you. I won't always be in a position as a Commissioner of Human Rights, Commissioner of Palm Springs, and I don't know if our agenda gets so full as a governing body that we begin fragmenting ourselves, as if not, it's better to perhaps define certain areas for which certain people have certain tasks and responsibilities. Again, I admire greatly Commissioner Zellness as she chaired this particular community relations committee. I think there's still a need for it.
Anybody else have comments?
Well, I guess to answer Mike's question, if we were to maintain the committee, his responsibility would be to be in contact with those members on the Human Rights Commission to chronicle what they're doing. Because if they're doing something, then the committee, the subcommittee, is fulfilling its obligation. So it wouldn't be that onerous of a task.
I mean, we've only had one meeting, right? We had one meeting. And that's it, because basically, we're doing it every time we meet. No,
But
I mean,
again, and this is just for conversation, basically, but also I noticed, again, certain areas, such as the Grapes of Wrath project and different things, other community things that Commissioner Zellness was so on target with doing. As we eliminate certain things, I then begin to wonder, by it's all coming in, and like you said, Commissioner Bowens mentioned about the Black History thing coming up in February. Those are little specifics. I'm looking at something and someone still soldiering forth who's going to be looked upon to handle a specific area of, I feel, great importance: community relations, getting out there. As a matter of fact, I'm projecting ahead that as I vacate my position, that I will definitely want to work with a specific person still on this commission, primarily for certain things to do with community relations. I think there is a need for it, and I don't think we should discard too quickly those things that have been structured with some importance. I think we should really think very diligently about that before we discard it.
okay.
I found it's not in bylaws specifically, and I'm not sure what this particular document is I have in front of me, but it's not a totally current one, but it's one we used at least a year ago or so, that speaks to, that identifies the various committees and what they're responsible for. And in fact, what I have in front of me is the Community Relations Committee /Budget/Personnel Committee. So it was written at a time where there were a variety of things plugged in. But essentially, short of the administrative side, the responsibility of the Community Relations Committee, as it has been defined in the past, is to promote ongoing communication and cooperation between the Commission, community, and city departments, especially police and fire, promote diversity through the hiring practices of all city departments in ensuring the city staff reflects the diversity proportionately of the inhabitants of the city, develop law enforcement police advisory subcommittee to advise the police chief and his administrators regarding the practices of police personnel in support of community policing strategy, and some other police-related, actively recruit candidates for the Citizens on Patrol, Police Academy programs, and then the administrative establish the budget for the commission, secure support staff, et cetera. So it's, I mean, there is specific language, but when you really look at what does that mean, it's not very specific in terms of what the activities or the potential initiatives are, be they initiated by the Community Relations Committee or in the context of our roles as commissioners overall. But, you know, I hear what you're saying, Chuck, too, because I think there could well be a need for a point person for an organization like yours or other organizations where the chair may not be the most appropriate person or may not be available or whatever, and a community relations is a less formal, if you will, entree to the Human Rights Commission, particularly on a working committee level.
The way that that job description reads, I would not really feel that I would want to be that chairperson. I specifically would not want to take on the task of trying to figure out if the hiring at City Hall or the police department, the fire department is reflective of the makeup of the community. I mean, that'd be a full-time job, and
I agree with you. When you
that's
just
not
read
really
that
something I
slide,
would
we
wanna
don't do
go-
that.
I
When you
wouldn't
just
wanna go
read
there.
what's supposed to be done, that's a full-time job.
and that's what's. So
I
I would,
wait,
I would
wait.
respectfully decline that nomination for that job.
All right, I want to put my 2 cents in. I concur with Commissioner Boyd. I do see the necessity for at least maintaining, in name, if not in fact, the committee. From what you just read, Sly, I mean, we have 2 members on the Human Rights Commission that belong to the Police Chiefs Advisory Committee, and this is exactly what we're doing in terms of discussing the strategic plan for the City of Palm Springs Police Department for the next 5 years. We are actively engaged in that right now, and a lot of that has to do with hiring practices, et cetera, training, sensitivity to minority groups, et cetera. So we do have members who are active in that. And as far as your committee, and this is a little tangent here, but I do want to work with you on that committee in terms of the Carl Perkins that you mentioned and getting the high school involved in that.
Excellent.
So
I welcome that.
we'll keep in contact on that. And we're doing a lot of that. So I guess we're just looking for, again, a figurehead, someone to coordinate, someone we can feed the information to. I don't see it as being an onerous task. Not that I'm volunteering for it, mind you.
But it sounds good.
Do we have any volunteers? I mean, that's basically the question. Who wants to take it on? Do we want to wait till we have all our commissioners here? Maybe somebody that's absent tonight would want to do it?
I think possibly, yeah. I think Dorothy might be really good at that position, and she's not here. And it would be nice. I mean, but once again, we have to make decisions. We can't wait when people are absent. But I think that in this instance, it would be good. And maybe for people, if someone's interested, to possibly we can easily redefine the duties of
Exactly.
of that
And this,
committee.
what I
Very
have is not necessarily current, Mike, that just
I-
happens
it's
to
like-
be
but
what I.
for me to accept chair
That's-
with
yeah.
that description there, I'm not
Right.
able or willing to carry out that mission, and it would not be right to be the chairperson, and then you would be failing in your duty.
Where does that description come from?
Well, see, I'm not sure what this
I
document
think it's something
is.
that's like our rules that we've adopted in the past that sort of expand on the bylaws. Is that correct? Yeah, and so.
It's under your
Yeah.
rules of procedures.
Rules of procedure, right.
I would possibly be interested in doing that as being a liaison and being someone who could
Exactly, if it
coordinate.
were
And
redefined.
also, because of my run for city council, I have a fairly good relationship with a lot of the press.
That's what I'm
And
looking
if you
at.
want, I can get calls returned if I call somebody who normally didn't even know I existed before the last election. So that could be something, a little shift in focus, and that's really what you've been doing, would be, a little more, we could possibly get a little more coverage or
Definition.
something for when we have something going on, we might be able, I might be able, because of those bridges that have been built,
Sure,
to help the commission with that.
And again, I mean, a committee chair has to have a subcommittee. We have 3 active committee members, Chuck doing his thing, I'm working with, and Dorothy are working with the police department, Dorothy's working with the black community. So we have a built-in committee, all we have to do is formalize it.
May I ask, do I understand then, Commissioner McCulloch, that you may reconsider
Yeah,
if it could be
we
further
change it-
defined, if it could be further defined
Right.
to the particulars? Good.
Well, and I think, yeah, I will work on I have that section slide, so. I have
Why
that-
don't you
I
come
have it
to
with me.
our next meeting? We'll put it on the agenda
Okay.
that you'll define what the role is. That committee's
As
role
I
is.
see that we can
Yeah.
do in the half of a year that we have left.
Right.
I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, I mentioned 3 people, and then I'm looking down, what you're doing with the Hate Crimes Task Force, what you're doing with PFLAG, what you're doing with the Rotary Club?
Lions Club.
The Lions Club. I mean, we are all doing community relations.
But right.
We're out there, so I get,
But I think.
circular gets back
That's
to
what
your
I'm
original
saying.
point,
It's-
we're all
I
doing
think
it
it's
anyway.
semantics. If you want to keep, not vote it off. If you want to keep the committee, fine. I mean, we're all doing it. That's what I'm saying. If somebody calls me up, I don't have to say,
But the-
go to
the
Commissioner
public doesn't
McCullough.
know
But
about it.
exactly. Thank you. The point being, this is fine and it's great. We got the zest and the zeal here. That's great. However, you need a point person. You need one that will then take out who has ongoing ties, relationships through the community, to let the public beware. Let them be knowledgeable of all of these different areas that we're covering. You need a particular key person, community relations spokesperson. And if it were further defined, I think still that Commissioner McCullough would be the ideal candidate.
Especially if it's just limited to PR.
PR, and I would work with you
Yeah, if
on
I
that.
don't have to do any work, I get all the credit. That's perfect for
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah, you just call me and I'll help you out. And,
You're good at that?
yeah, I'm good at PR work. I mean,
So are you accepting the nomination?
I think we're like, let's go ahead and do what we're going to do is I'll work up what I think the vision for that would be,
Great.
and then you may not like it.
Okay, and that'll be on the next agenda, and then we will vote on it. Okay. Excellent. So we kept the committee, a new committee. It'll be the new Community Relations Committee. Our next thing is Executive Planning Committee membership. And that's come about because I'm now chairman, you're now vice chair, and we need a permanent, third person for the next quarter or for this quarter? We need people because the calendar doesn't
Who
work
was the
out.
other third person?
Lee, do you have that?
And is that expired? Is it time for a new one, was it?
Yeah. I think, is Dorothy next?
Was
I'm
it
not
Dean Stephen?
Well, he was chairman, so he had,
Is that why
I'm
we
at
have a
every meeting.
vacancy?
As far as I know, I'm at
Well,
every.
Lee, let me ask you this question. Didn't we rotate it on a quarterly
Yes.
basis for the
Yes.
purpose of getting people who could not commit to the entire year involved? And that it would be okay to have one person the entire year? Because like you, Bill, I attend all of them because I have a vested interest in the forums and I need feedback and I work. So for the most part, I am attending all those meetings. I would be happy to be the third person if that doesn't violate any statute of limitations or term limitations, I should say.
I don't think it does.
No.
According to your rules and procedures, the executive committee consists of the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and a rotating member of the commission at large.
So, Commissioner Iguano, you want to be our third?
Sure, I'll rotate.
Okay. Well, great. And our next meeting is, and I'm not good at dates, you have the next meeting, Lee? I believe it's on the 4th, Tuesday the 4th?
Correct.
Okay, good.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. And is that, and that time, as I've always said, any time is good for me. That time we set for Dean Stephen. So is that still a good time for you too?
Yeah, afternoons are good for me.
Okay. And that's good for you, Sly?
Sure, works for me.
Okay. Our next is, I guess we'll have to vote on this possible expenditure to mail videotapes of the January forum to the panelists. We made a videotape for everyone that partook in the forum, and I think we should mail them the tape as a thank you at least.
I'll make
so
a
they can watch
motion
it.
that we mail the videotapes to the forum panelists.
I'd like to second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that passes. The last thing is commissioners to identify project effort initiatives they wish to lead with this fiscal year. And that was just, I think we've already had some of that conversation tonight. I think I threw that in just for a general, because sometimes we don't have discussions. We just vote on a certain thing, and people want to talk about certain issues. But I have nothing to add to that right now, if anybody wants to speak.
Actually, I had requested putting that specifically on the agenda, primarily in follow-up to some commentary at the last business meeting of 2002, which was probably the first part of December, and then we ended up having the forum, the first meeting in January. And in my report, my year-end report as Community Relations Chair, was the challenge to each of us on the commission to identify some particular thing that we were going to do this year. Joe obviously has taken on the education chair role and he's our forums guy. Joe's clearly our forums guy. And the rest of us don't necessarily have a particular initiative, project, effort kind of thing that we want to do as it being the leader of that initiative in, somebody mentioned, in the time we have left between now and June 30th, which will be here before we turn around twice. So the challenge at that point to each of us was intended to come back in January to identify what individual project we wanted to undertake. Not that you have plans laid out and the foundation laid, but that there's something in mind that you want to accomplish in the context of the next 5.5 months or so.
Any comments?
I'm going to be studying the Human Relations Committee rules and regulations and possibly chairing that, and maybe getting bigger visibility. I can see there's KPSI Radio has some excellent programs. They have the morning show. They have the Coachella Valley Report. They have Joe English that you've been on her show. I can see Steve Brown runs excellent columns in the Desert Post Weekly. I think that's something that we could get more exposure for this group and possibly get a few more people to attend our meetings and our forums.
Okay, anybody else have comments? Well, I can say for myself, I'm still working with the running the hate crimes task force, and I think I've gotten us a lot more publicity than we had in the past. And people are getting to know the Human Rights Commission. That's been my goal, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. So my plate's almost full. Anybody else?
There were the two things that I had mentioned well, actually one that I'd mentioned at the December meeting was an interest, sort of wearing both hats, Human Rights Commission and PFLAG, to follow up with the school district on some teacher education, training, et cetera, that took place about 4 or 5 years ago around safe schools, particularly for kids who are gays and lesbians who have less than an easy time frequently in schools. And there was some training effort and relationship building effort that was initiated 4 to 5 years ago. And I would like to see how things are. Have things changed? Are they different? Are there new training needs? And if we, as the Human Rights Commission, might be instrumental in making things happen that need to happen. And the other is being the Human Rights Commission representative to the Homeless Task Force. That's just an area topic that is near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. And not having been part of that group before, I would like to be able to identify with them something that I can lead on behalf of the Human Rights Commission and get us involved in doing something jointly with the Homeless Task Force to address some of the issues that they've been dealing with over the last several years. So 2 things.
Okay, good idea. And actually, the homeless task force, now that you're working with them, that's another forum idea that might come up. What are our responsibilities to the homeless? I mean, there's a big debate going on in town. That might be interesting later on this year. Anybody else?
I'd like to commend the commission and prior commissions. When I first got interested in being on the Human Rights Commission 3 years ago, I think the community was in worse shape than it is now. I mean, we had just gone through the senior prank at the high school. There was all kinds of human rights issues there, on both sides, I felt. And that's one of the things that got me charged up was the fact that I felt students sometimes and children don't necessarily get the same rights that we as adults do. Anytime now that there's a hate crime or a hate incident that happens, I think the public is more aware about the definitions of what those are. I think the paper reports them more accurately. The police are definitely on top of it. I think that in my opinion, I think that this commission has done a lot of good things, and I think the state of human rights in Palm Springs is good.
Thank you. No, I agree with you. Yeah. I think part of it, we have to get the word out, what we're doing. That's why I told the story today about the Desert Sun. Because initially when I picked the phone up, I forgot I wear that hat as chairman, and that's why I got the phone call back. So in my mind, it was the Human Rights Commission tag that got all this achieved. And that's why I want people to know. But I think we have to get the word out, be proud of what we're doing. I think we're doing a good job. Anybody else? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Point of clarification,
Yes.
Chairman. Mr. Aguano, how long will you be serving on the executive committee? You're going to be the rotating member? Are you,
For life?
3 years.
there we go. To the end of
I'll
this,
serve at the discretion of the
the end
committee.
of this fiscal year? We go that long?
I mean, yes, I'm willing to do that if it's
Yeah, that's fine.
legal, sure.
Okay.
And of course, everybody else is invited, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
We have a
But we have to
limitation?
know that we have a third person.
No,
for every meeting.
but I
But
believe you
everybody's
can't
invited.
have a quorum, though, can you?
Yeah, you can't have a
You have to
quorum.
keep it under
Fine.
5?
Well,
How many
actually,
do we have on there? 9?
We should be getting a new member soon.
Point of clarification, that meeting is posted. It's
Oh, okay.
according with the Brown
Right.
Act, so, and minutes are kept, so it is a regular public.
Okay.
We could have all
Meeting
9,
open.
or all 8 of us, anyway.
But they can't conduct business unless it was on the agenda.
Correct, right. It has a regular agenda.
But they could conduct business if it was on the agenda, if they had a quorum of all the members?
Well, you would be conducting business as the executive planning committee.
Setting the agenda.
Right.
Correct.
So that's all you can do is set the agenda?
Right.
The executive committee doesn't have any powers to actually act on behalf of the commission?
Correct. It's more
Right.
recommending
It's
body
what we're going to bring
the-
to the commission.
Good.
Okay.
Can I raise something out of order, and it was probably, would have been better raised in the staff report? If there's any information, news, word on our 9th commissioner, the appointment of a 9th commissioner?
I believe applications that we had were given to the council members to review.
Right.
So anyone up to about last Friday, I believe,
Right.
was submitted to council members for them to review. And of course, the period will be opening for applications for the coming fiscal year very shortly, too. And the city clerk is working to have the ability to file your application for membership over the internet. So
Oh,
that could be
great.
something new this time out.
But I also believe the council said by February 5th, they were going to go through all those applications. So we should be getting a new commissioner. They're working a new system, so it's a little bit up in the air. But February 5th was the date that they said at the meeting, that they'd like to get it concluded.
Yes, Commissioner Feingold, under the last chairmanship, Commissioner Kaufman, did I hear that the meeting times for the new fiscal year will be different on a Monday in the afternoon versus Thursday around 6? Wasn't that?
I don't remember. I think it was a trial, but I don't think so. I
Yes,
know I remember hearing something.
That was passed by the commission. The business meeting will be conducted in the afternoon, but the forums will continue to be on a Thursday night.
Okay, the forum, but our HRC meetings, will they move to Monday? That's
Monday
what
afternoon.
That's what
And
I
at
thought.
what time?
I believe the time you selected was 3 to 5.
Exactly.
Did I
And
miss
that's
that meeting?
effective the
Remember,
new,
you were here.
Right, the
Yeah.
next,
I remember.
I was
that's
a
what I
nay.
thought.
with the next fiscal year, because there was a conflict with
Yeah.
one commissioner.
That's what I thought.
Could you
Being
please, like, maybe dig through the archives and find out what that meeting was and how the vote went? Because I believe you had some discussion about couldn't make the meetings.
Right, and the vote,
And I believe that maybe Paul and I voted nay on it as 9 to 5.
Correct, and that's.
But I would like to,
yes,
if we could see it, I'd love to see
Sure,
that.
I will get that. I
Maybe we
think that
can-
was
'cause
why we decided
maybe
not to
revisit-
do
We
it.
might revisit that, although the naysayers could not bring it up again, but someone who voted in the affirmative for it could bring it back as a motion for reconsideration.
Correct.
That would be good.
Yes, we did vote, the vote was to do it like immediately, and that's why we held off until the next calendar.
Could we put that on the agenda possibly for the next meeting? And then if we could with the, when we send us agenda, if you could send us a little note maybe, or the minutes for that meeting or whatever, so that we would know
Sure.
how it went, just a little paragraph.
Mm.
That'd be
Lee,
helpful. Then we won't
Yeah,
be
we should do
putting
that,
something
yeah.
off for again and again.
Yeah, no, we don't want to put it off, but yeah, we should revisit it and see why.
Because we have a different commission now.
It's a whole
And
different
we'll have a whole new
commission.
commissioner.
Well,
Now, are we
but-
telling the new commissioners it's going to be 3 to 5, the people who are
that's
applying?
right. My recollection was that there was an issue with Paul not being able to attend, and I think we postponed it to the end of your term.
Yeah, the
And-
implementation was going to
Right.
be after Paul was gone, and new commissioners appointed this past July 1, in that interviewing process, were advised that this
When
was
is
going to be a
Paul?
change.
Paul, when's your term over?
End of
Of this year? Okay.
'Cause it'll be very difficult for me to attend 3 o'clock meetings. I probably made that clear when we voted.
We thought we'd all come to your office.
Only if you
Yeah.
have pizza, though.
7 a.m. would work.
Okay, we should revisit it just to see what we did, to make sure we know what's going on.
Yeah, and if, when we do revisit it, perhaps when we get the new commissioner on, who's already said maybe that's a good time for them, then they would have some input too. So, but I'd like
Yeah.
to see what happened.
Okay. No, so let's put that on the agenda, Lee. You have that? Great. Anything else? Anybody want to discuss anything else? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.